Welcome to Up All Night DIY. I'm Monica. Thanks for joining me. Last week, I made this old world architectural triptych. This week, I decided to make an old world shrine shadow box to complement it, using a Dollar Tree box as a base. It's approximately 4¼ inches square. We're also going to need a decorative front piece, so I designed one and cut it from 3mm basswood using my Falcon 2. Here we go. I kept the same shape to the arch as I did, with the triptych. And this is going to fit nicely on top of the box, like so. I'm also going to use a couple of wood beads that are going to function as feet for the box. I'm looking for a bit of an urban industrial vibe here. I have this really cool mold. It's of piping and gears and things. This is actually a cake fondant mold, but it works great with clay. I'm going to use some Model Magic clay in the mold to make a frame that will surround that opening in the arch. I really love this fondant set. It comes with a variety of pipe fittings and gears. It also has some hinges and faux screw heads. I think I got this on Amazon, but it would have been, several years ago. Anyway, we're just going to fill in the various pipes that we might want, and, we'll work it out from there. And I gotta tell you, the Model Magic works really well with these silicone molds. It pops out really easily, and it keeps its shape. I'm keeping that front panel handy so that I can get an idea of just what I need, to fill in that area. And I'm just going to keep going until I get everything I need. And, if I make a few extra pieces, no big deal, right? I'll just use those in a different project. And it's always better to have it not need it than need it and not have it, as the saying goes. Once I get all the piping made with the clay, I'm going to set that aside so that it dries overnight. Also, when I pulled out my molds, I found this hinge as a decorative piece that I must have made previously from hot glue. I think this will be perfect to decorate the top of the point. It's also good to note that if you don't have clay on hand, you can always use hot glue in these molds. That works great too. Another mold that came with this set is this industrial riveted panel. So this is going to be perfect to cut a heart shape from. I'm just going to lay some clay down here, roll over it to get that imprint, and then we'll use a cookie cutter to cut out a heart shape. The heart is going to hang from the center of the shrine, and I'm going to make it so that I can interchange the pieces according to the holiday or my whimsy, And we're going to let the heart dry overnight as well. I apologize for the background noise. I know it's obnoxious, but it's my heater. It's 6 degrees. It's blowing full force. The clay has hardened, and now we're going to dry fit it around that opening before gluing it into place. And again, you can still hear the heater going in the background. Sorry, but my tootsies are cold. Here's that decorative hinge I mentioned. This is going to work perfectly, I think. Look at that. It fits right in that space. I'll be using Aleene's tacky glue to affix the pipes and the hinge to the wood frame. And as you can see, I'm going to do it piece by piece, so that I get the best fit possible. Okay, now that that's all in place, let's add the hinge at the very top. There are some gaps in some areas, the clay shrunk a wee bit as it dried. So I'm going to use some hot glue to fill in those gaps. And you know what? Once it's painted, this is going to look like welding. So I'm going to set this aside for about 10 minutes just to make sure that that hot glue is nice and dry. And then we'll start the base coat. I'm going to base coat all of the wood pieces with 2 coats of Hippo Gray by Ceramcoat. Now on this piece here, I want to make sure that every single bit of the clay and of that hinge is completely coated with the gray. So I'm really kind of scrubbing that paint in there. And I'm going to base coat the front and the back of each wood piece because I want to make sure that none of the wood peeks through. I really want this to look like it's real metal. And I just want to say, I hope that everyone stays safe and everybody's power stays on, and that this storm is over quickly with very little damage. Of course, I'm sure none of us are looking forward to it. I'm a summer girl, so nah, I don't do snow. Not liking this at all. So we're just going to finish up base coating the rest of our wood pieces. We're going to work on the box here real quick like. Right, so while the paint is drying on our wood pieces, we're going to paint our heart. I'm going to give it 2 coats of Americana Cherry Red, front and back to start. And now let's dry brush it with some Napa Red. This is also an Americana color. You know, it's a deeper, more full-bodied red. There's a lot of texture to this heart, so the dry brushing will really enhance that nicely. We're going to do some more distressing to the heart later, but this is a good start. And I don't think I mentioned, but I did poke a hole at the top of the heart. I did that with a toothpick, you know, so we can hang it. I drill a hole top center of my box. This is where the wee hanger for the heart's going to go. Of course, you know that I love my Harlequin, so I cut a piece of Harlequin scrapbook paper to fit inside my box, and I aged it with some vintage photograph ink and some black ink. I'm going to use a cosmetic sponge to apply a layer of Mod Podge inside my box, and then we're going to add our scrapbook paper to that. And if you remember, I did do a Harlequin on the side panels of last week's triptych. So this, like I said, is a nice compliment. Let's burnish that to make sure that it's nice and flush and that there aren't any bubbles under that paper. And then we're going to add a top coat of Mod Podge as well. Now's a good time to start adding some of our rust features. So I'm going to use some Americana Light Cinnamon to dry brush the heart. This is going to give it a tinge of a rusty appearance. I don't want to go over the top here, but I do want this to, you know, be cohesive with the rest of the piece. Now we can dry brush the embellishments on the arch, starting with the decorative hinge. Once I'm happy with the paint, that it's well covered, I'm going to actually sprinkle on some real cinnamon. This way it'll get some of that rusty texture. Moving on to the pipes, once again I'm dry brushing with the light cinnamon paint. There is already texture to the pipes, so I'm not going to bother sprinkling it with real cinnamon. I'm just going to dry brush it with the paint. I want it to mostly be rusty on, you know, the pipes, but I do like a little bit of that gray showing through. So, but it's a matter of personal preference. I'm happy with that. So now what I'm going to do is pull some of that cinnamon paint down from the top of the arch in streaks. Again, this is just a dry brush technique, but I kind of want it to look like, you know, maybe water has gotten to it and the rust is running down the front piece. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just going to continue to do that until I'm happy with it. I think that looks pretty good, so let's move on to the box. I'm going to paint the entire outside, especially the corners, focusing there, and I'll just add streaks here and there on the body of the box to mimic that rust look. Now I don't think I showed it, but I did the inner sides of the box as well with the rust. And like I said, we'll do the back. We want that to look nice too. And of course we're going to repeat that on the 2 wood balls that we will be using as the back feet. I'm going to add a little patina, so I'm using Americana green tray, and once again I'll be dry brushing this down in a streaky fashion, anywhere where I think it suits. I love the way this green is going on. I think it really looks like metal patina. A wee bit more here on the sides, and I think that's pretty good. The box and the feet will get the same treatment with the green paint, and we're also going to do a little bit on the heart as well. You know, pull it all together. I gotta say, I do love grungy things. I love making things look old, beat up, rusty, grungy. Oh, there you go. I do show you me doing the inner sides of the box. Right, so what I've done is pulled out my folk art floating medium, and what I'm doing here is dipping my brush into it, and I'm going to pull some of my Ceramcoat Charcoal paint onto my brush. The medium will mix with the paint just a wee bit to make it a little translucent. And I want to fill in the grooves on the heart. I'm kind of using this mixture as a stain, so I'll wipe it back just like I would a stain. Good stuff. So I've grabbed my craft toothbrush, I'm dampening it and dipping it into my charcoal paint, and I'm going to pull my thumb across the bristles to splatter my pieces. I think this adds an authentic distressed look. I love a good sparkle. You know what I'm saying? Grabbing my black wax, I'm going to add a wee bit to each of the wooden pieces, just anywhere that I think it needs to be darkened a wee bit. And again, this is going to add more authentic aging. Once I get it on there, I'll use a soft cloth to wipe it back. Then we're going to add some to the box and the feet just like we did before. And also, once I had this all assembled, I did give it 2 coats of a clear matte sealer spray. I'm going to add a top coat of Mod Podge to the heart to seal it. And once again, I'm just going to use that cosmetic sponge and I'm pouncing it on there. Let's add a small touch of real cinnamon for a little extra texture. I've cut myself 2 lengths of rusty wire. One will serve as the hanger that will slide into the top of the box, and the other we're going to make a hoop ring to hang the heart from. I also have a rusty hook here from my stash. I'm going to thread the hook onto one of the pieces of wire, and I'll pinch the wire closed around the hook, and then we're going to slip the wire up through the hole in the box. Once I get the wire into place, I'm just going to open it up, and this way, if I ever want to remove it, it'll be easy to do. But it's also secured, and it won't fall back through the hole. You see what I'm saying? Next, I thread the other piece of wire through the hole in the heart, and I'm going to make it into a loop, and I'll cut off any excess. It'll attach to the hook just like this. That hook is going to make it really easy to switch out the decorative elements. Time to construct our box. I'm going to start with the feet. And once again, I'm using Aleene's tacky glue to attach the feet to the back of the box. You see right here, I want it nice and flush with the back of the box. I add a layer of tacky glue around the perimeter of the box, and then we're going to place the arch on top. In order to make sure that everything is level and lined up, I'm going to tip the box upright, and I'll add the panel this way. There we go. I'll clean up that glue that's spreading out around the back, and all we need to do is add our heart, and our shrine is ready. Shall we take a look at it all finished? We started out with a simple Dollar Tree box, some clay and paint, and wound up with a very cool urban industrial decor piece. This fits perfectly with my overall aesthetic, but it could very easily fit into farmhouse, vintage, really just about any style. Also, I'm digging that it'll be a snap to change the decorative charm. I can even remove the charm altogether and add a standing piece if I choose. You could always add dewdrop lights around the inside of the box. I didn't have any, that's why I didn't, because if I can light it up, I light it up. So I think that would be a cool addition too. And as an alternative, you could use cardboard or chipboard to create the front arch. Beads would be a quick and easy way to trim out that opening if you don't have, piping molds like I do. I think gears would be really cool too as an embellishment. I might have to make one of those in the near future because I think that would be really cool. I feel like this is a really good complement piece to the triptych. It has a lot of the same elements, the same shape. We have the Harlequin going on. It's got that old world, rustic-y, vintage feel to it. Yeah, I really like this. Let me know what you think. And I want to give you guys a heads up. Next week, I'll be co-hosting the It's Always Halloween collab with my girls Dawn of Shabby Meets Bling and Annie of Crafting with Indiana Jones. So please check back for that, especially if you're a Halloween lover like we are. And of course, we'll be joined by lots of our very talented friends. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and all that good stuff. Stay creative, my friends. Thanks for hanging with me. See you next time, up all night with Monica.